goes on even during council meetings, so.
She's always on the beach.
Yeah, maybe they'll have stories when they get back. Each of you should have a copy of the minutes from our last regularly scheduled meeting of March the 14th.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion's been made
I'll second.
and seconded. If there are no additions or corrections, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Each of you also in your packet should have received a copy of the check register.
Are we supposed to be on TV tonight? Andrew said we'd be on tonight. We on tonight?
Yes, but we still haven't worked out this
Oh, okay,
part yet.
okay.
The problem is we'll have to figure out some way to accommodate a feedback issue.
Okay. So we are live out there?
We are
not
live,
here.
it's just
Okay.
not gonna be on that screen, and we're,
'Cause I had 3 people ask me today about it.
I had some people too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
It's nice to know that our citizens want to watch.
Yes, they do.
So we are live, and this will be, because of equipment issues, this will be the first meeting this year that we've been live broadcast. Each of you should have a copy of the check register in your materials, if everyone could indicate they received that. Thank you.
Comedy on council. We're on.
We are on. Let's see, under public comments, we've had 3 people sign up for comments, but I'd like to, also like to insert my friend from Dan's Pawn Shop, who was here at the last meeting, and we promised you some responses by this meeting. And if you'd like to come up, be glad to discuss those. Council will recall the question about handicap parking spots in our new parking lot.
Yes.
And we've looked at the ways we can accommodate that. And we think you're 100% correct, and we're going to begin those installations. What we'll have to be careful about is, and we'll probably, there's flat areas right to the side of the Foley's real estate building that we think will be well suited for these handicap spots. What we'll have to do there is make at least one of those van accessible, so it'll take a dual lot for that. Also, we'll probably have to change one of the sidewalks to include a ramp. If we're gonna put signage on these spots and indicate they're handicapped accessible,
Yes.
we can't let someone in a handicapped situation pull in there and
Right.
not be able to use it
Yep.
correctly. So we'll have to change a sidewalk to incorporate a ramp. We also want to go down beside the Justice Center. There's also a flat area there, and we believe we can also add 2 or 3 handicap spots for people using that side of the parking lot. So I do think we're going to be able to address your concerns and some concerns some other citizens have mentioned as well.
Great, Mayor, thank you.
Appreciate you bringing it to our attention. We're going to get to work on it.
Thanks,
you.
Melissa, guys. Thank
Yes.
you.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Also for public comment, Miss Martha Ward, Relay for Life. Power in Purple, I think is the rest.
Yes. A group of our Scott County Committee, I'm R.C. Ward, representing the Scott County Relay for Life American Cancer Committee. And we were hitting the pavement our first day of spring break because we're also teachers in our part-time job. And so we had hit Judge Lusby's office, and his secretary was so helpful because she practically volunteered him to do the Power in Purple, and I will explain what that is. But she also directed us in a few other offices and mentioned the word competition, and one of the offices being the mayor's office. And your secretary was even more awesome because she directed us here tonight to share it with everyone at once. Because instead of giving us a list, she said, just show up and tell them all at once what this is.
And we'll thank her tomorrow morning.
And I believe she almost put your name in, penciled it in for this event. This is the first time, really, Scott County is one of the pilot counties trying this for the American Cancer Society. And what Power in Purple is, we are looking for officials, clergymen, school officials. We already have some principals that have signed on to do this for us. And it's to bring awareness for the relay and the month of our relay, which is going to be May 21st. So you would need to commit from May 1st to May 20th to wear purple every day that month. You also can have fundraising. We are going to set up a website for every one of our participants. The night of the kickoff, which is at Will Showers, a beautiful, wonderful dinner, you will receive a purple lapel pin, which pretty much covers you're wearing purple every day of the month. We don't expect you to actually wear the purple as long as you have your lapel pin. But we would love to see purple as well. So, but we are just, like I say, we're a pilot county. The American Society, we've always had so much community support in Scott County for our relay, and we've raised, so much money for really the size of our county. I think they approached us this year and said, would you try this Power in Purple and see how it goes over? Because they didn't even go to Lexington. They came to Scott County and asked us if we would try it this year. They wanted us to at least try 10, and I know I'm gonna hit News Graphic and see if Mr. Scoggin would be involved. So we're just trying to get, like I say, people in the community that are visible, that will make awareness for our relay. And then the night of the relay, which is the 21st here at the Scott County Middle School track, you will be recognized, and throughout, we're hoping that the night of our kickoff, the newspaper could come and cover that as well. So I have information with me tonight. I have little collecting little cans, if you'd like those, to put on desks in your office. I know, at Northern, our principal, we pay $1 to wear jeans. So, she's already started her fundraising for her Power in Purple. So, I appreciate your time, and if any of you are interested, I will give you the contact name and the pamphlet.
I'll take one.
Okay, you want to see me after? Okay, I'll be here and you can see
You
me.
gonna stay the whole council meeting?
I'll stay, yes, Okay, thank you very much.
She didn't know what she just
Thank
Let you know what she's getting into for the council
I'm
meeting.
actually gonna volunteer my pastor too.
That would be
I
awesome.
wonder if he's watching me on TV.
I will give you all the pamphlets you need. Thank you very
You're welcome.
much.
Of course, Ms. Ward hadn't said the mayor's comments.
That's true.
Yeah.
You might want to come back up again.
Totally let her know.
You have stayed over faculty meetings at my school, and I hope my principal's not watching. I'm fine.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. And I would look forward to wearing purple.
Good, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
You got a purple suit?
So will the chief.
I got a couple of purple ties, but I'll need a lapel button to really pull it off. Laurie Saunders.
Thinking purple suits everybody. We should all be wearing it. But I'm here tonight to speak about Horsey 100. As you know, it's always Memorial Weekend, which this year is May 28th and 29th. Now, this is the 39th year that it has been hosted by Georgetown, Scott County. So we are asking permission to do that once again, where we will start off at Georgetown College on Saturday with about 2,500 cyclists. I have given you a copy of the application. I've also included a copy of their insurance, along with the information that pertains to their 2016 ride. One of the things I'd like to do before you all take a vote for us to be able to proceed with hosting that is just bring up Chief Bossy. I've been to several of the Horsey 100 meetings, and every time I go, they always say the same thing. We could not do this without the police department, the fire department, and EMS. Now, the routes are not included in here, but Chief Bossy's been working very diligently with them. So I thought maybe he might kind of give you an overview and some of the safety measures too that are taking place this year. So Chief Bossy, do you mind?
Sure. We've been working with the Horsey 100 Committee since its inception. The mayor talked last year about us getting more involved, and especially since the circumstances from last year's race. We have literally been from the first meeting to the most recent meetings. Fred Fields is in charge of the security, and so we have, and they've been really good about, we've asked them to change just a few things about the route to make it a little safer. We're working with backups to have a large contingency of law enforcement out that day. They've actually gone through us to contact some other agencies and elicit some more involvement from those agencies as well, and that's worked out very good. So Saturday, most of Saturday is the ride to the west, which is Frankfurt and the horse farms in that direction, and then Sunday, most of that ride is to the east and north, so, but I mean, it's 100 miles, I can't tell you. So, but it's actually very exciting. The city of Georgetown will be contributing some man-hours, but a large bulk of the man-hours, they've picked up themselves, and we'll be paying our officers for the overtime, so it's worked out really well. Yeah, they've been very generous that way, too. I think they recognize the importance of just having that presence out there. And because of backups, we'll be able to go into Versailles and in Franklin County, Woodford County. Our units will be all throughout the whole 100-mile course. So,
It's important that after Mark Henkel's
Yes.
unfortunate death last year, Chief Bossy got involved very early with the planning so that we could make our guests feel as confident as they possibly can.
2,500 bikers coming in.
We're hoping for 3,000
I don't know how
this
many
year.
different states, some countries. It's pretty neat.
My brother comes in every year to do it. He's from Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow. Yeah, we have a large group. We have a lot from Canada, too, that love to come down here. And many of them come a few days early so they can bike ride some of just the scenic areas and roads that we have because they are so beautiful.
Do you need a motion, Mayor?
Do you have any questions for me?
You always do an awesome job,
Yeah,
Lori.
appreciate it, and we appreciate it too.
Well,
Yes, ma'am.
Horsey 100 does it all. I'm just their speaker for tonight. It's all them and our police and fire and EMS, I'll tell you right now. It's all to them that we have success every year.
It's good. Yes, Mayor. Motion.
Ms. Tackett with the motion,
Second.
Ms. Ames with the second. Any questions for Lori?
Just a statement, they're an economic benefit for the community. I know some people get agitated with the bikers, having to slow down and be around them and things, but they
gotta
are
eat and stuff.
economic benefit.
And since you mentioned that, one of the, just since you mentioned it, because I told the mayor I was going to be really quick tonight, and I'm going to be. But one of the things that we are doing this year is an exit survey for the Horsey 100 participants. So a couple of the questions are, how much did you spend in our restaurants? How much did you spend in our hotels? So that we can, I'm hoping to get 25 to 50% of them back so that we can actually get a substantial economic impact number to our community. Because they are staying in our hotels, they are eating in our restaurants, they are going to Lowe's and Walmart and other places throughout the community. So I'm excited to
They
see.
shop with us, and
they-
so I know if
yeah.
I get part of it, then everybody's getting some of it, so yes.
So we're kind of excited about that because we'll actually have some hard numbers to be able to use and to present. Another thing that they're doing that's new this year, on Friday night, Superfecta's going to be playing. So this will be the first time, I believe, Superfecta has played in Georgetown at Horsey 100. So that'll be exciting. But they're also inviting the public to come out for that night of the concert at Georgetown College. They are welcome to come out and see the vendors. We've got some local vendors and local artisans who are actually participating this year. And they're going to open up the food trucks that'll be all around the college at that time, and plus the music. So anybody from the public would be invited to come out between 5 and 10 and have a good night with the Horsey 100 participants. So we hope some of them will come out and have some fun with us. So
Good. All in favor of that idea? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
I'm all about food.
And Miss Amy Preston. Millie, this will please you.
Well, good.
That's what I heard.
Well, I'm all perked up.
Am I allowed to say also that Arlene told me you need to come and speak? So,
Oh, yes. I don't know what.
she's very helpful.
on a
She
roll.
she is wonderful.
She's here too, you notice that?
Well, I'm Amy Preston with Scott County Habitat for Humanity. And what I wanted to talk about tonight, just briefly, we are still building houses. And we're on our 36th home. We're halfway done with that, and we hope to start another one this year. We have, most of you probably know where Habitat Village is off of Hickman. We're building the last house in Habitat Village on the last lot. And we own the property across from Hickman, which we hope to start developing that property, and that will be our next neighborhood. But also in that property, we would like to build a community garden. And we've already had at least 12 homeowners say they're very interested. I'm working with Sharon Flint at the Scott County Extension Office. She's wonderful. So we're partnering with the extension office. They're helping us with education. This is in the beginning stages. I don't know a lot about building community gardens, and she talked to me about building raised garden beds, something similar to this, so that each homeowner could have, you know, their own plot, which I think this is wonderful. And we have lots of stuff from the Restore that we can actually build the beds with, so that works out great. Repurpose a lot of things, old pallets. So we would like to also work with the city, because I know Earth Week is coming up in April, and also you're doing cleanup, which is, you know, near to our heart. There's always, and especially this land has a lot of cleanups, and people have dumped some things. We have trees and things that are there, so we'd like to also partner with the city to clean up. We've had lots of calls. Scott County Habitat is very blessed with groups calling and saying, we just want to volunteer. We've had pharmaceutical companies, churches, just groups of people, Toyota. So I have several groups that are supposed to come in April that can help us with that. So hopefully this is taking off. We really want to do it. I think the garden will be a great thing.
I would like to volunteer to help you do whatever you need.
Thank you. I would love that. I actually, like I said, don't know a lot about what we're doing with the garden, actual gardening, but, you know, the
Cleanup.
the cleanup and getting the lots ready, I think that'll be great.
Be happy
Love
to.
it.
We've agreed for Public Works to assist with some cleanup efforts, and I'm sure if we reach out, the Scott County Road Department will help as well. Couldn't be more excited about Scott County Habitat for Humanity and Ms. Preston, your efforts and others aligning behind our initiatives to clean up neighborhoods. And we're willing to put dumpsters there. We're willing to facilitate your efforts in any way that we can. Earth Day is going to be the 22nd, and we've got cleanup activities scheduled downtown from noon until 4 o'clock this year on Earth Day. Last year, we only had it during lunch, and
Yeah.
it was a little hard for people to leave work, do a little bit, and go back to work. So we've expanded the hours this day. I think there'll be other activities all week long.
I think so. I think Georgetown College has some activities planned to be involved in that too.
So your all's approach to the council is very welcome, and I think
Well, thank
we'd be more than willing to help you.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Give me that. Okay. Mayor's comments. They won't be that long tonight, I promise. Just a couple of things that I wanted you all to be up to date on. First, I want to let you know that our effort at Public Works is really paying off nicely. With Robert Bruin managing there, it seems to be working smoothly. Getting good feedback on that. One thing that just this is just anecdotal, but to me it speaks volumes. On the day that I got to go out with the senior citizens last week to deliver meals, we were on the senior citizens bus, that little mini bus, delivering meals. And at one point on a narrow back street, we had to pull over to get around the garbage truck that was picking up cans. And as we eased by the garbage truck and the crew was walking to the next house, I noticed that Robert Bruin was working on the crew.
Excellent.
He was working on the back of the truck,
Hands-on.
so he could know what the job entailed. So he could know exactly the job he's asking other people to do. He didn't call me and tell me he was going to do that. He didn't call me and brag about that. I just caught him doing it. And I was so impressed by that. So I think that speaks volumes about the interim leadership that we have there.
The council very much respect that, because that puts his hands right at the same place they are, so that's excellent.
Yeah, I thought you ought to be
It's
pleased.
hard to sit there and tell somebody what to do if you've never done it.
Now later, I learned he was limping a little bit, but He was out there doing the
Oh, Lord,
work.
there we did, got him down.
Also, we have completed all of the data request for our solid waste consultant. They've got all that information. They've been on site a couple of times, so that work has begun in earnest. Mr. Bruin is performing well in that role. You've probably seen it advertised several times, and it's been on Facebook. 1 week from tonight, we'll have our public hearing about the Homeowners Association ordinance. And we were talking today about the work that we need to do in this next week to make sure that we're completely ready for that opportunity with the council. If anybody has driven by Washington and Mulberry, you've seen substantial work done on the center of town. It's not completely flat yet,
Oh,
but
no.
it is approaching completely flat. So
Good hard wind might take it on down.
it might. We also have meetings scheduled next week with the architect and design folks, so we can start looking at what will end up going on that program. Let's see, I promised Stacy that I would mention, we will report back to the council on your revenue forecast in 2 weeks. I was going to do that tonight, but frankly, a couple of things have been distracting for me and Mr. Wilhite here the last week or so, and
Oh, yeah.
we're a little bit behind on that, but we'll bring you those revenue estimates here in 2 weeks. Chief Bosse also wanted just to note that I've either seen on Facebook or in other media some real compliments for some of your officers, the work they're doing. Officer Enrico at Southern School, Officer Hess, a complimentary letter from a Mr. Sloan. So it's nice to get compliments on the officers, and if you could pass that on for us, please. We already mentioned that April 22nd will be Earth Day, and we'll be getting with you all about opportunities during that whole week. Also, I feel an obligation to have a brief conversation with council about the recommendations that were made at the Fayette County Board of Adjustments last Friday concerning the stockyards application. Mr. Wilhite, Judge Lusby, and I attended that Board of Adjustments hearing. And it was a lengthy, detailed process. I think we were there just a little over 4 hours. About 30 minutes might have been devoted to some other minor issues, but the majority of that time was spent on the stockyards presentation. We listened carefully to both the presentation by the stockyards representatives and their attorneys. We also listened to what opposition was present, and there were 3 Scott Countyans in attendance that were opposed to the application. And Mr. J.R. Williamson spoke in opposition, but most of his points had to do with the horse park. They had little focus on the stockyards issue. Mr. C. Price was there, indicating that the stockyards should be denied because meat is not a healthy part of our diet. And then a resident of Lyle Road, Danny Burkhead, appeared and spoke against it. There was no organized opposition. There were a couple of people who were clearly opposed. Also, a gentleman who used to operate our landfill. Did you ever work with Charlie Denham?
I know Charlie real well.
Charlie lives in Spindletop Estates off of Brea Road, and I think he's concerned about the proximity of his house and aquifer issues. Judge Lusby and Mr. Wilhite allowed me to speak for our group. And what I indicated to the Fayette County Board of Adjustments is that Georgetown had a long history and a very long established precedent for worrying about the Royal Spring and its aquifer. And I gave them the history going all the way back to when the University of Kentucky proposed building Coldstream Research Farm, where it is now. We were worried about the effects of the aquifer back for that development as well. And at that point, we worked closely with the university's engineers and land designers throughout the UK administration, and they agreed to make design changes, design requirement changes to buildings built in Coldstream Park to protect our aquifer, so we ended up supporting that zone change once we had our concerns answered. I pointed out that we were heavily involved in this particular proposed location for the stockyard 10 years ago. And that 10 years ago, the plan that was brought, I believe I characterized the plan 10 years ago as being, it was ill-conceived and clumsily presented, I think was the way I characterized the effort 10 years ago. And that 10 years has made a real difference. The approach we've seen this time from Mr. Jim Akers and his staff with the Bluegrass Stockyards has been completely professional and completely transparent with the information they've offered. We explained that we did receive water quality data concerning the town branch. We had been promised that data, and it was important from a transparency perspective that we receive all of that data. But the reality was that data was inconclusive. It just didn't tell us that much. It would have been concerning had we not been provided the data, but it was simply inconclusive. The town branch is in a not that nice of a neighborhood. It's an industrialized area. Directly across the town branch from the stockyards location is in fact a closed landfill. There was water quality data. It didn't appear that the stockyards had contributed to the town branch's ills, but the town branch has its problems. So we elected to look forward at what the engineering and the construction and the design would look like to make sure we were protected. I think I've indicated to you all before that the owners of the stockyard have invited Bob Wilhite to sit on their design committee. So we knew that going forward, our interest could be looked at. In terms of due diligence, we evaluated the town branch data, found it inconclusive. We started looking at the construction and engineering components, and we also looked very closely at the site considerations. 10 years ago, this facility was located without as much care, and it did go over top of our aquifer recharge area. The effort that has been proposed this time does not sit over our aquifer recharge area. And we've satisfied ourselves of that data with assurances from the Division of Water, who tell us that the boundaries of the aquifer recharge area have been known and accepted for a considerable period of time. They're right, it's probably the most studied karst area in Kentucky. So we have reliable data here. We also took a field trip that we had told you all about. We went last Thursday. Mr. Bradley and Miss Conway and Miss Tackett joined us on that field trip. Now, it was mostly a successful day. It had a ragged beginning, because I have to admit that when we got out of my car at the stockyards location to get on the bus, I locked Miss Conway in the car.
You literally locked her in
I
the car?
locked her in the
That's-
car.
That sounds so
That ain't fair.
pitiful
No, it doesn't.
on my end of
Did
it.
you leave her?
Yeah, but it had child-proof locks, you all.
We almost left her.
Was she crying?
No, but I was beating on the window, going, Tom, Tom, and he was talking to Judge Lusby as they walked off, and I went,
It's not good form to lose a council member.
I mean,
But in her defense, it had child lock
it
on
it did.
Did not get
Child
out.
lock.
And I reached forward into his seat, hit the unlock button, still couldn't get out. So somebody walking past helped me out of the
Smart
car.
car, Millie.
Good thing it wasn't 99
It was a
degrees
smart
and
car.
We got on the bus, and I saw Connie getting on. I thought, well, Millie must be in front of Connie. But no, I got on the bus too, and Millie, I'm so sorry.
That's okay, and I'm so happy that you brought it up today. That it made me look like, oh God, she can't get out of the car, you know?
you might want to think twice on going on a trip. with somebody, but
Just laughing at myself.
I know, it's okay.
The field trip,
You
the
were
field trip
focused.
to Stanford was very enlightening. The facility we saw in Stanford will be exactly the same size and footprint of the one that's proposed for the Ironworks Pike location. It is amazingly complex and well choreographed, the way they move the animals in from shipping through the holding, the sales pen, and out for shipping. It just a well choreographed and well managed operation. The things that really struck me from being on the site is just outside of the barn, there's very little noise. If you step under the barn, it is noisy. I noticed very little odor.
None.
Even when you're inside the facility, there's just very little odor.
It's phenomenal.
You see very little cow waste. It's a dry manure handling system, and we saw very little waste. So we feel as though we took the appropriate steps. I wanted that commission to also know that I was not armed with the vote of the city council. The judge didn't have a vote of the fiscal court, and Bob didn't have a vote of the water board. It's not our regulatory authority, but we wanted to be able to explain to each of these bodies what steps we had taken to make sure we had protected our water supply. I finally offered, in my concluding remarks to that commission, I offered our opinion on the project with 3 assumptions and 1 caveat. I assume, 1, that the facility would never be expanded to where it would be over top of our aquifer. Number 2, that the facility be built with the engineering and construction methods that have been promised to us. And with Mr. Wilhite serving on that committee, I have some confidence that that will happen. And number 3, we ask them for the discipline to make sure that their maintenance of the facility is done well in perpetuity. They've got checklists of daily, weekly, monthly, and annual activities that are supposed to be checked and cleaned. We believe that that'll happen the first year. We challenged them to make sure that they had that same discipline in years 10 and 15, so that it would operate as it's designed. With those 3 assumptions in place, I told the commission that it was the opinion of the judge, Mr. Wilhite, and myself, that the Stockyards facility could be built on the proposed location without negative consequences to our aquifer and our spring. I did offer, the caveat that I asked for was, in the event that the Board of Adjustments approved their application, which they did later on a unanimous vote, the Stockyards has been considering 3 locations for their sanitary sewer needs. They can either go south to Lexington, somewhere in the Sandersville Road area. They can go under the interstate and go to the horse park, or they can go north to Georgetown. I opined that I thought going to the horse park was not a good solution. I think there's limited capacity there, and that facility is directly over our aquifer. There's no question about that. But I've encouraged them to think only in terms of coming to Georgetown for their sanitary sewer need. Reason for that is we need to address our environmental problems at the trailer parks.
Now, that was a question I was gonna ask you. Would they consider helping pick that up coming through?
That's the proposal that we have put before them, that we need to address the greatest environmental concern that exists in 17
Not the
counties.
stockyard.
It's the #1 environmental concern in the Bluegrass Area Development District and has been for 3 years running. It's an environmental crisis that sits astraddle the county line of 2 of Kentucky's most prosperous communities. And it's time that we addressed it. We think that with a capital contribution from the stockyards, perhaps a capital contribution from Lexington, that we can cobble together a transaction that will allow us to run sanitary sewer to the trailer parks. Perhaps add a little extra flow to take care of the horse park's limited human waste need, the stockyards' limited human waste need, and still size this proposed pipeline so that we can hope to retain our green belt. Not size it for any more flow than the trailer parks and the limited flow from the stockyards. That idea has been well received. It was well received after the Board of Adjustments meeting. This morning early, Mr. Akers emailed Bob Wilhite and myself and indicated that their board had met on Saturday and their board directed him to work with us
Good.
to start giving them cost estimates and ways that we can possibly work out this transaction.
That's good.
So
We're gonna actually solve a major problem that we know that we've got.
Yes, sir. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be logistically really complicated. It's going to be complicated because of easements and property. It's also going to be complicated due to the stockyards has a very aggressive timeline to get back open. They would like to be back open in 18 months. Perfect case scenario, if we gave Bob the green light to start tonight, it would take him at least 24 months to get a sewer line in the ground. So we've got timing logistics to work through as well. The stockyards have already indicated that they'll be willing. I think they're going to have that problem with any of their sanitary sewer needs, Bob. So I think they're going to have to look at a solution where they, for a short period of time, may have to hold their waste and have it pumped. That'll be very expensive for them, but that'll be a short-term scenario for them. It also has a lot of logistical complexity from who will be the financial participants. We know the trailer park must be a financial participant. We're frankly unsure of its ownership today. We think the lender owns it, but it's been in bankruptcy court, so the timing of financial contributions from the trailer park. Bob and I have even discussed we may have to approach the stockyards and the council to make an additional capital contribution until such time as the trailer parks are ready to sign on.
And what about the county?
County as well. I'm willing to let them in on this conversation
It
as well.
should, because the trailer park actually is our water, but it is, they're
Oh,
not our
yeah.
constituents that we're helping out there, so they should have a part to play in it too.
Yeah, same logic there, Karen. I agree. I think Fayette County has skin in this game. 1/3 of those trailers
Yeah,
are in
tremendous.
Fayette County.
They definitely need to have
Yeah.
a
So-
part in this too, yes.
We need a complicated transaction to be put together, but I think the outcome is worthy of all that complexity.
Yes.
So with those three assumptions and one caveat, we did not oppose the stockyards going in its current location and believe that the science justified us in taking that position.
And the possibilities of the future of taking care of that trailer park, which we were discussing for the last several years,
Yes.
that needs to be done.
Yeah. Bob, anything you'd like to add to that?
So you're speaking for Bob anyway, remember, you spoke for him, the judge, come on.
Well, it doesn't matter if I did.
Is that right, Bob?
So, more to come on the stockyards.
Right.
And we will, through Bob, we'll keep you up to date on the design activity, the construction activity, and then the sewer line project will be the council's, because we own it. So we'll be back in touch there. Also want to let the council know that I am going to ask the council to pick up the issue of the needle exchange program. I believe that the needle exchange program represents a public health policy that is important enough for us to examine carefully and examine it carefully and fairly. It's too big of a public health issue to let it die and go away. It is my full intention that we do this with complete respect for the position that the fiscal court has taken on the issue. Fiscal court's been wrestling with this issue for 2 or 3 months. And as you've seen in the local paper, last Thursday night voted on a 5-3 basis to reject the proposed needle exchange program. Fully respect the court's position and the questions that the court has asked that they feel they did not get adequate answers to. What I'm going to ask the council to do is start from scratch. Fiscal court's got a 2 or 3 month jump on us. They've had numerous presentations, they've had numerous conversations about this. I would like for us to start with presentations from the Board of Health so that we understand the issue completely and that we set about understanding the questions that our citizens have, that council members may have, and that fiscal court members may have, and do our best to address those questions and possibly have a program approved.
If we were to, if the council was to pass and the court still doesn't, then it doesn't pass, right?
That's correct. That's correct. However, there are other instances in Kentucky where the city went first. And I would like for us to take our best effort at finding out the answers and seeing if the council can get to a comfortable position on what is an important public health issue. So again, we will do this respectfully, in a manner that's respectful of our cousins across the street. But I believe it's too important an issue to let it just fail. We see from guest editorials to the newspaper that some of the magistrates who voted against the program have indicated they're willing to reconsider it. And the court needs to have their process and the council will have ours. And what I'll pledge to you is that we'll have a comprehensive process that helps us address as many questions as we can possibly address before we ask for you to vote on it.
Is it approved by ordinance? Is it approved by resolution, municipal order? It's not municipal order, but is it an ordinance or how's it approved?
If I had to guess, I would say it would be a resolution. But I'll have to
So
check.
you don't know yet?
I don't.
Since the fiscal court has already come out of the gate in terms of gathering information, I've asked Ms. Tackett to help me with some of this. We're going to work with Dr. Miller to get a complete understanding of what information has been presented to the fiscal court at this time. I've already had one of the magistrates who in fact voted against approving the program asked to meet with me on Wednesday to review the data that he has. Happy to receive all of that. Happy to understand their questions. I do want to say right at the onset of this that A needle exchange program will not be a one-to-one exchange. It will not be a one-to-one exchange. And if that's anybody's expectation, we need to stop now, because that's not going to be the case. I hope the council will be very open-minded. This needs to be discussed as a public health issue and not a political issue. I think we have an obligation to our citizens to treat this as a public health issue and not a political issue. We'll get that on your agenda, and we'll have presentations at future council meetings. Any questions before then?
Just make sure you give us a little more heads up other than just having it on Friday and then having the meeting on Monday, if you don't mind. When you start to bring it down, bring the information to us. If we can get more notice than Friday's agenda, that's gonna be on Monday.
Oh,
So in other words, we got information Friday, we would prefer to have it 2 weeks than the agenda instead of the following agenda.
Knowing it gives ahead of time.
So we can have time to read,
But there's
investigate.
lots and lots. I actually, ever since they started talking about it, I've started doing reading and research. There's lots and lots and lots and lots of reading and research out there.
I will ensure that the council has adequate time to fully consider all the information. And, well, yes, we will do that.
Thank you.
All right. Rest of this is going to go really quickly. That's the end of Mayor's comments. Well,
Bob, you should have got on public comments, you could have been out of here.
Bob is pretty quick.
Yeah.
Very quick.
I really needed Bob present for the
I know.
explanation of the stockyard.
So we appreciate for whoever went and sat on those committees and listened to all these presentations and brought it back to us, because this is a major topic in the city and the county right now on this.
Yes, sir, it is. Yes, sir, it is. Bob, I think the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items are yours.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I do have a few items tonight as we get ready to start our projects for the spring, and I apologize for my voice. I got a sinus thing going on. First is approval of purchase order to Kentucky Engineering Group in the low bid amount of $24,550 to provide engineering services for the Eder Lane water line extension. This will come out of the water line upgrade line item in our fiscal 2016 capital budget, and our board approved this item on February 16th. And I believe I also gave you a map so you could see where that's going to run.
Motion for approval?
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded. If no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right. Next is approval of purchase order to Lovo, Inc. in the amount of $19,990 to provide professional services in the upgrade of the control systems for the head house facility at wastewater treatment plant number 1. This company has performed similar upgrades for us in the past. The expenditure will come out of the planned equipment upgrade line item. Excuse me, and our board also approved this item on March 15th.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Ms. Conway with the motion.
Second. Oh, go ahead.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Bob, would you like for me to read that for you?
You may have to by the time I get to the end.
Okay. You yell if you need.
All right. Approval of the low bid amount of $87,922.50 from L&L Excavation and Site Prep, Inc. for the Choctaw Trail and Yuma Trail water line improvements. This will also come out of the water line upgrade budget line item, and our board approved this item on March 15th.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion's been made.
Second, Mayor.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yes, sir.
Approval of the low bid amount of $383,385 from Clay Pipeline for the Drake Dam Pump Station and force main replacement. This expenditure will come out of the proceeds of the 2013 revenue bonds, and our board approved this item on March 15th.
Motion for approval.
Motion, Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Ames. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
All right. And finally, approval of quote for Kentucky Engineering Group for professional services for the engineering of the sodium hypochlorite bulk storage and feed building for our water treatment plant. The fee quoted is $95,900, which is $31,150 below the Kentucky USDA Rural Development Utility Program fee schedule. This is a project to replace our current bleach generation facility, which is no longer supported by the manufacturer. It's 2 generations out of date and is very costly to operate. We have a line item in our budget for this project, and our board approved this item on March 15th.
Thank you. Motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Seconded. Ms. Sarah? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Bob, one other item. We talked about it coming back from Lexington. Council's had several questions about the pavement cut on North Broadway. It's been open for longer than what we thought. It turns out it is one of Bob's contractors.
I thought it was.
Project was supposed to have been finished before Christmas. I think they've had some difficulty with the contractor. They are aware of the mess, and you've been trying to get that finished up as best you can.
He has 2 more laterals to hook up on Harmon Court and 2 more laterals on Hamilton, and then he can do his concrete work. And then the asphalt plants are supposed to open on April 4th. And then after that, he can come back in and pave that. So we're close to being done. I'm sorry it's taken so long, but it's been one excuse after another.
Do you have a, in the clause, they got a certain amount of time to finish something like that?
Yeah, it's supposed to be finished the end of October.
Do you have a fine for not finishing it early enough? Okay. Don't hurt to have it in there. Because we might end up having to go back and blacktop it before you know it ourselves.
We sometimes try very hard to use local contractors, and frequently that's a great outcome, and sometimes you try too hard.
Yeah.
Anything else, Bob?
That's all I got.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Item 8 on your agenda is a municipal order to approve the selection of an auditor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
For one reason or another, we had delayed bidding for a new auditor. I finally got to a point where GMWSS's contract with the auditor and ours have ended at the same time. So we did a joint bid and had 3 responses. You had a memo. We based 50% of the score on cost. As long as you're having a qualified CPA firm, then the majority of our concern would be cost. It is a large ticket item in our budget. And then we also had 25% on firm and 25% on staff qualifications and experience. So with the results, we are recommending RFH CPAs and consultants be our auditor.
Who was it last year?
It's RFH, and it has been for the last several years. There's been a lot of controversy out there recently about auditor rotation. There was some legislation that was proposed recently about it. They ended up backing off of it. It's the stance of the Society of CPAs and CPAs that it's not necessarily a good thing unless you just want to or are having trouble with your current auditor. But there is research out there that shows the majority of inconsistencies and errors occur in the first 3 years of an audit. So that as they become more familiar, they're able to find the inconsistencies. Whereas in the first 3 years of an audit, they spend so much time getting to know you and getting to know your finances that they can overlook things that someone who's familiar with it would find.
I think the reason that I'm asking goes back to historical value here. Is I was always taught that you should keep an auditor for a few years and then change out, because as they come in and they learn and look and they find things that the other auditors got comfortable with. Because going back to the time of our computer gate, it was our auditor, and Marvin can remember this, that did not catch some of the things that were happening then that we felt as a council should have caught that, and we always felt like if it was somebody different with new set of eyes, maybe they would have seen something. That was
in all honesty, most of the time they won't. Most audit firms do what they call risk-based auditing. They analyze the risk level, and they look at selections of transactions. I mean, it's possible. I'm not gonna say
Right.
it's not possible. The new set of eyes wouldn't have caught it.
I know, that's why they ask
But-
us, send us a thing about fraud and that kind of stuff to fill out
Yeah.
for
So,
us, but.
So will this be our 4th year with this company?
they've done the previous 6 years on it.
6 years?
That's a long time.
They did, yeah, and he made a good point. I'm sorry, Alan sat on the selection committee along with me, Tracy, and Holly Gilchrist. They have said they can rotate staff if needed, or even the lead partner if needed. They by far have the most experience with city governments
Right.
and utilities in Kentucky.
Well, that might be a good thing to rotate yearly, so you don't have the same people looking at the same books, you know.
How long, if you do this contract, how long is the contract for now?
We did it for 1 year with the option to renew for 2 additional years.
Okay.
So they've given us pricing for 3 years that won't change. So like I said, 50% of it was on cost, but, we do have pricing for 3 years and so we would bring back a municipal order every year to approve the audit contract, but.
I like the idea of having the same auditors, but I also like the idea of them switching up the staff. I think that's a
You
good idea.
put that in your motion.
I'd put that in the motion.
There you go. That's what I was gonna do.
Then
I'll second your motion, and that we accept it with changing the staff yearly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions about the audit appointment? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Very good.
Item 9, it says city attorney, but our city attorney has got the sniffles tonight. I don't know if y'all-
He's been awful quiet up there, I know that.
Blowing his nose.
Close to him.
I know, and you're sitting this guy, I'm sitting even closer.
Now it feels good sitting down on this end.
Let me help Andrew just a little bit.
Poor
He'd be
guy.
shocked if I didn't anyway.
I'll bark when I need to.
Exactly. We need to go through a real straightforward process concerning hiring someone to help us with our website. When we canceled our Sophisticity contract, Sophisticity also helped us maintain 2 websites. The city's website and also a smaller, less function-rich website for the business park. In fact, we've only had it up for
About a year, yeah.
year or so. So we've taken proposals and we've done interviews with these companies on how to best go forward and how to pick the company that'll do this. We even had a conference call. Some of you all may have sat in on the phone with the conference call. It was pretty beneficial. I think Chuck was on the call, and actually asked some pretty good questions about websites from his development of his company's website. The firm that we settled on is called Civic Plus, and we can give you a number of city websites that if you want to go take a look, you can see some of their work. You'll notice in the municipal order, the cost for the first year of design, implementation, and hosting of a new website is $9,500. It's below the amount that we would have to bring you for an expenditure level. However, the contract has hosting cost for the second and third years of $4,100 per year. So it would exceed our $10,000 bid limit, even though it would not exceed the $20,000 that the state and most other cities have. So that's our recommendation at this time. Anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, we explored a variety of different options, one of which was to have a company simply build us a site and have us host it and us maintain it and us keep up the security. And just the cost and the time to keep up with that. And I'd also like to say that we talked to Sophisticity about maintaining our current website, which is, compared to what we will get out of this, is not good. But they offered us a month-to-month option of $472 a month, which ends up being more than what we ultimately pay for a new website. We did, however, extend it will take at least a month, maybe 2, to get the new one up and running, so we'll extend it with them for a month.
You need a motion?
Please.
Motion.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Ms. Conway with the second. And if there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Thank you. Item 10 on your agenda is second reading of an amendment to the personnel ordinance that Ms. Erdley has sponsored. This is the ordinance that created the 2 new police officer positions and made some personnel changes at dispatch. We acknowledged Lieutenant Whitaker going into the directorship of that department and made the necessary changes below him. Would you like to
Sure.
read the summary?
An ordinance amending section 2-111 subsection C of the Code of Ordinances to abolish the position of coordinator, abolish the position of assistant coordinator, and add 1 additional position of dispatcher in dispatch, and add 1 additional position of lieutenant and 2 additional positions of police officer in the police department. Summary. 1. Amends section 2-111 subsection C of the Code of Ordinances, which sets forth the classifications, associated pay grades, and authorized positions for each department to abolish the position of coordinator, abolish the position of assistant coordinator, and add 1 additional position of dispatcher, all in dispatch, and 1 additional position of lieutenant and 2 additional positions of police officer, all in the police department. 2. Provides for repeal of inconsistent ordinances, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage and publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Court Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownkY.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time March 14, 2016, publicly read the second time March 28, 2016.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion.
Motion's been moved
Second.
and seconded. Any questions? If not, shall we call the roll?
Mrs. Conway?
Yes.
Mrs. Singer Erdley?
Yes.
Mr. Showalter?
Yes.
Mrs. Tingle Sames?
Yes.
Mrs. Tackett?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you. While we're on the topic of police personnel, one thing I meant to mention to you during the mayor's comments, we have been working with Chief Bossy on some pay adjustments within their pay scale. And the problem that we're working with Chief Bossy to solve is there's very little difference between a sergeant level pay and a lieutenant level pay. In fact, it's so little that it's troubling.
Yes.
So the chief and Stacy and Megan have been digging through numbers, and they brought me a couple of proposals. I had actually hoped to have one of them in a position to bring to you tonight, but some other things got in the way. What we're gonna bring to you at the next council meeting, assuming we can get our work done over the next 2 weeks, is the same methodology we've used in Public Works and Dispatch, where we think we can either eliminate or freeze a couple of positions and free up available funds to make the gap between sergeant and lieutenant a more respectable gap, and one that's, I think, we'll all feel more appropriate offering people that have that additional responsibility. So I think I think you'll be pleased with what we bring you, but we'll work out the details on that, Chief, and bring it back in 2 weeks.
Mayor, that I would encourage that as well. Great.
Good.
Good job.
And the steps that I just haven't been able to take yet is to get the Finance Committee together and make sure they completely understand the numbers, and the Police Committee to get together to completely understand your personnel. So I told the chief that rather than try and rush it tonight, I'd rather respect the committee and slow down, take our time.
That's fine.
Okay, now we're to that part of the meeting that you all control.
Oh, boy.
Council comments. Marvin, anything you have tonight?
No, I think I mentioned mine about the cameras earlier, so.
Yes, sir. Holly?
Yeah, I do, I do. I went to the Ed Davis Parks and Rec meeting last Thursday, and I think Karen brought up about the basketball court repaving, and they asked about that again. So, and they said it was going to be in the budget, but if the budget gets approved, if the budget's July 1st on, is there a way they're gonna be able to get it any earlier than that?
You know, I haven't even heard what it cost.
15,000.
That's the first time I've heard a number.
I would
That's what
think.
Sherry told me from Parks and Rec, so, yeah, 15.
And the conversations I had were just wondering aloud if we might have a corporate vendor that would
Yeah.
help us with some of those related costs.
Yeah. You probably know a few
Very
people
nice.
to talk to, don't you?
I don't want to assume anything about that company, but
It could be.
Well, I do know, I've drove by there and it is in need of some work.
Yeah.
Okay, it's and I'm scared to say how many kids plays on that from now till Thanksgiving.
That's what I was just.
A lot.
I mean, it's nonstop,
Yeah.
okay?
It's a busy place.
Saturdays.
They have leagues that
In the
they play over
evenings.
there and stuff, so it's if we're thinking about our youth, it's a very good thing that we need to be doing.
Yeah.
yes, sir.
I agree.
They were, actually, one of the fellows that came to the meeting came in from Louisville about it. I mean, because he was so interested. But, and then the second thing I had, the planning and zoning comp plan, I've been, going to those meetings, and the land use and heritage and urban forum, and one of the things that came up at land use was about the green belt, and different people kind of weighing in on that, and some people, the green belt was more important to than others, so,
Yep.
some interesting conversations. So.
And, Polly, in that regard, we need to prepare ourselves, because any conversation that we have about extending sewer service to that area we're going to renew all those conversations.
Yeah.
And-
It kind of came up.
and all those political pressures.
Yeah.
So we've got an opportunity where some things have aligned, but we're going to have to be very careful about the way we go down this path, or we'll squander
Yeah,
what we have that's precious.
And that's something we want to keep, really.
it is.
We always
It is.
have.
Yeah.
Yep.
We discussed before, if we ever built that line, and Karen, you might remember that we had it in an ordinance that this is for
X.
X thing, and
Yeah.
it's not for every
For every
new
other thing,
business
yeah.
or stuff coming in.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
very important, if we do it again, that we look at it that way.
Yeah,
I think so too.
yeah. I just mentioned that they'll be lining up
Oh, yeah.
for their
Oh, yeah.
opportunity.
It was already brought up about the stockyards and the sewer line.
Yeah.
Both times.
Anything else, Polly?
Oh.
Okay, thank you. Millie?
Well, I'm attending the Human Services meeting the last Thursday of every month with Megan in the Planning and Zoning office, and I am learning a lot, and I'm excited about some things that we're talking about, things we want to accomplish. But I am very thrilled about the community garden, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's a step in the right direction. I don't know if multiple gardens can be talked about, but we got to start somewhere. And I go to Presbyterian Church in Midway, and the pastor there said she's done a tremendous amount of research on them, and they have theirs in the back property of the church yard, and it's very successful. So I would like to talk with her a little bit about it too. But I can't wait for the cleanup and to try to help, get something started, and I will volunteer to do whatever's necessary. So,
Sounds good.
looking forward to it.
Thank you. And I promise not to lock you in the car.
It's perfectly fine.
Today it is anyway, right?
It's okay. It was all right then. It actually, 2 seconds after I realized the bus wouldn't leave me, I was laughing about it, But I leaned forward in the front seat, hit the unlock button, and nothing happened. And I thought, well, if I crawl over, that'll be a picture. Crawling over from the back
That
seat to
window
the
out.
front. Woo, that might make the newspaper, and I wasn't looking forward to that.
They didn't have his camera ready most of the time.
Yeah.
Did you miss that, Dan? You didn't catch her in the car?
Everybody was ahead of me. Everybody was ahead of me.
Picture.
That was the frustrating part.
There was missed,
Oh,
I didn't do it.
there was
David
mischief
Livingston.
during lunch.
oh, was it?
There was.
Dan's camera got stolen.
Oh,
Well, relocated. It was relocated, you know.
relocated.
Yeah.
There was no respect on this trip whatsoever.
I kept up with my purse. That's all I'm saying.
Misbehaving.
Karen?
Well, since I'd like to go into executive session, once you're
Oh.
going down.
All right, Connie?
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Are there any updates on Fordland Drive?
Oh,
And the reason I ask is, I don't know if you've heard today,
we
but
read this.
I was told today that there's now actually a second house that had
He did read.
multiple cars parked in the front yard as recently as early this afternoon. So I didn't know if there were any new updates at all.
There are no good updates. In fact, I saw Mr. McDowell before meeting started, and Andrew sent a lengthy legal analysis Saturday or Sunday to you all. And it unfortunately indicates that we have not found any tool yet to help with what's happened on Portland Drive. And a real concern that if we attempt to put in place an ordinance to stop it in the future,
Maybe grandfathered in, wouldn't it?
well, we're afraid of unintended consequences. If you do a Google Maps drive down Fordland Drive, almost every house on the street has an additional parking pad. And it becomes a real sticky wicket to get through. We don't want to make everybody else take out parking pads. Some people have lived there for years, and they poured a little pad for their pickup truck or their wife's car. And at this point, we have not figured out an ordinance that we can use for future examples
It wouldn't hurt.
that don't have the potential of consequences that we can't live with. I explained that to Mr. McDowell, and he said he was kind of figured that might be the case. I did tell him that I would share with him your legal analysis, if that's all right. But tonight, Mark, we don't have any answers.
I think a lot of the issue stems from the fact that that's R2 zoning, which authorizes multifamily. So you've got, a very narrow street with a lot of houses that are multifamily and not adequate parking. I mean, it's just,
Is there any way that you can write an ordinance where your front yard has to have X amount of grass,
Green space or whatever.
green space, instead of addressing the parking issue, because they've taken the whole front yard and put gravel, is that we could address that you must have X amount of space of green space in your front yard?
But we can't keep them from
sky's the
parking on
limit
the
as far as what you theoretically can do. The question becomes, what impact does it have on people, and at what point can they say, you have changed the use of my property to my detriment, to where you've taken my property? That's the risk you always run with retroactive type land use regulations. Going forward, things are a whole lot easier, although we still need to think about doing it very carefully so it's narrowly tailored to achieve the exact result that we want.
Right.
Don't step into that lightly, but trying to do some kind of nuisance regulation or open space or green space, you run the risk of one, like what I mentioned, and two, unintended consequences. Things you didn't intend to cover, but turns out you did. I'm willing to discuss it, however, but I think one issue is that area in general has kind of become that way over time and by necessity. And passing an ordinance to address that one particular problem, which probably has widespread, if you look in other areas, there's probably similar issues. What impact are you going to have on that area by passing something like that?
Well, even if, my thought process is, it's not like I've not seen driveways all the way up to the front porch of people's properties in the front yard. you usually have a little bit. But even if it's paved, it's better than gravel at some point. But, I can't imagine what the resale would be though, for gravel front yard.
It frankly shocked me to hear, although I haven't looked at other cities to see if they have the same provision. It shocked me to hear that we, in no way, not through the building inspection process, not through planning and zoning process, in no way regulate driveways in single-family residential.
Could you pose that question to your city attorney?
Sure, sure.
It'd be interesting to see if anybody has had experiences better than what ours are right now.
Yeah, I will.
And a gravel driveway, you're talking about resale value, it really doesn't take much to get grass started and
No.
put a little dirt over top of it and you got grass again on a yard, so.
As a realtor, I would say you might want to put some grass in your front yard.
Yeah, I would too, so I was gonna say.
It's one of those situations, Mark, I just hate that we don't have an answer for our citizens.
The only thing we can do with people's property is we can ask them to maintain the mow it, and that's it. We have an ordinance on that, and that's all.
You can't mow raw.
No, but I'm just saying, but that's how we can, that's about it.
No, but you can weed eat it a little.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you
can.
weed eat it. Mhm.
Now, you weed eat the grass between the rocks, yeah.
There you go. The horse is dead. Get off.
Anything else, Mark? All right. Ms. Ames?
All right, I would like to make a motion, it'll be quick, to go into executive session based on 61.8101B, deliberations on future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency. Is that right?
Nailed it.
All right.
Second.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
It's bad we said no, and
You just have to hang out for a little bit. We'll be back.
We won't be long, I don't think.
No.
Well, famous last words.
Unless the mayor gets to talking.
Unless the mayor.
Do you have any comments to this?
That's hilarious. Everybody wants